Welcome to Video Bites from the Packet Pushers. We're recording live at AutoCon 2 in Westminster, Colorado. Right now, I am joined by John Jackson from OpenText. You were just on the stage talking about some network automation efforts. Just to sort of set context, can you remind folks what OpenText is doing in the network automation space?
That is a great question. OpenText is, as I said on stage, one of the largest pure play software companies you've never heard of. And yes, we do network operations management, which includes network automation.
Okay, and so you were on stage with CloudMyLab, which we'll be talking to a little bit later. What are you guys doing together?
So we have formed a partnership with CloudMyLab, and they really complement what we do and vice versa. One of the key things in network automation is net DevOps. And one of the key tenets in net DevOps is testing. And we have constant, what's the old joke about when you ask a customer, do they have a lab? And they're like, no. Well, where do you do your testing? Well, in production. Yeah. So their production network is their lab. That's kind of what we want to address. We do have a network automation product that does the full configuration management. We do compliance, audit, the whole gamut. And we have some really large customers. And not a lot of them have labs. And so this is an opportunity for us to not only partner with CloudMyLab, but we actually use CloudMyLab internally with our research and development team to write device drivers. And that's one of the biggest things that we have as a company is our, I guess, what do we say, the unmatched number of device drivers that we have in our inventory, which it's amazing. It's been, a 25-year journey. We built up a lot of, I had a conversation with a customer yesterday talking about some really old devices that he has that are still there. And, I guess the word is legacy. We came up with a term yesterday. What did we call them? Oh, exotic devices. And these are some really old gear that Sienna Networks, Exedian. I mean, these are devices I haven't even heard of.
Sure.
But I guess the mantra is if it, what do they say? If it ain't broke,
packet.
Yeah. If it can pass a packet, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, those devices are still there.
Sure.
So not only do we handle the legacy devices, but we also handle, the next gen devices that are coming out, the, streaming telemetry, all the latest and greatest firewalls, all the, vendors that come out. We have a fantastic support for devices.
So this notion of testing, it goes on in software development all the time, but for networking, it's kind of a new idea. Like if I was going to do a configuration change, maybe I'd eyeball it or show somebody else, and then that's good enough.
Well, that's the concept of, I remember the talk last year about how did the name Net DevOps come? It's DevOps, but for networking. It kind of
network engineers are like, I'm not a developer, don't talk about me.
And we're not writing applications like the dev people that are system and application people, but what we are writing are configs. And those configs take on a life cycle of their own from you create it once, and then eventually at some point it needs to change for whatever reason. And then you get into backing up the config, and then you get versions, and then you made a change and, oh my gosh, we have to roll back. Well, what do you roll back to? So that's one of the things that we've embraced is this is a market. You may have heard of this thing called Git.
I have.
Git. Yeah, Git repost. We're now fully embracing Git. So we now support GitHub integration. We're soon to be adding GitLab. And it's based upon customer demand. And one of the funny stories was we had customers coming to us with this other product called Ansible. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Of course, yeah.
And they said, hey, can you guys integrate with Ansible? And the answer was, yeah, sure. That was pretty easy for us to do. And the next question was, well, that's great. You support Ansible, but we store our Ansible in Git. We were like, okay. So now we've added, we're changing with the times. We're investing in the product. And it's a never ending changing marketplace.
Yeah. So it's interesting that customers are coming to you saying, can you support this? Can you bring this in?
Oh, yeah.
So in some ways they're a little bit out ahead, but bringing you along with them.
Correct. And, sometimes we always ask about, the next trend. Sometimes we've actually gotten in front of the customer.
Sure.
There's this thing called streaming telemetry. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Sorry for being a smart aleck.
No, that's fine.
But we've already developed a lot of capability around streaming telemetry, receiving it for one of the big vendors, Cisco, but a lot of our customers are not ready yet. So we built it. We've got that platform, and we can build on that. So you try to read the market, and we think we're doing a pretty good job.
So wherever the customers are in their journey, you're able to support them.
Yeah, and it's based on customers. We don't want to build something that customers aren't going to use, but we do listen to our customers. And it feels like I'm cheating as a product manager. Receiving, we call them idea exchange entries, customer enhancement requests. But it's great feedback when customers need something. I always say I live in the fantasy land of the software vendor. I don't feel the pain that the customer is actually feeling, but it's great for me to get that feedback of real world scenarios.
The other thing is, somebody had a slide up on one of the presentations earlier, sort of like the history of network automation. And 5 years ago, everything seemed like it was going to focus around Puppet and Chef. And you don't hear that anymore, particularly in the network automation space. It's moved to Ansible and Terraform and so on.
Correct.
So what I'm hearing from you is OpenText has built a platform that, as times change, you can also incorporate the latest and greatest, like Ansible, Git, and so on.
Yeah, and we've taken a position that we're not going to compete with these other technologies with Ansible. That would be like saying we're competing with Python.
Sure, right.
So we embrace that. We're actually a large partner, OpenText as a company, with Red Hat and Ansible, so we play nicely with them. But if you have a technology that you're using in your environment and you've spent a lot of effort building playbooks for your infrastructure, you can leverage those. Now, do you have to have Ansible to use our product? No, you can actually build and use our product in a low code or even no code fashion. So we have all those terms: no code, low code. You can go as code high as you want to. So we do fully support that.
So if I've got a more mature sort of network automations team that's comfortable with a little bit of software development, there's the low code or high code option.
Correct.
But if I don't want to do any software development.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of engineers that are we still have customers that are going into the CLI, telnetting, which is
frightening, right?
A 4-letter word.
Yeah.
But
please tell them they should not be.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have a policy compliance check for that. But SSHing to that device, still running commands, which is fine. That's what they got their CCIE for. But we can still monitor and police that. We use our product kind of as a proxy for customers to kind of control how they're accessing devices. So if you want to do the CLI, great, but you got to come through us. So that way we can, we capture what's being typed on the keyboard. Some, things that people type on the keyboard are not always bad. You may have some brilliant engineers that are just creating some amazing content, on the CLI. Well, guess what? We can capture that. We can take that session, spit it out as a Python script, and then you can reuse that. So if Bob gets abducted by aliens, we've got what he did, and then we can leverage that.
Yeah. So last question before we bring in CloudMyLab. Any last thoughts for folks who are watching? Yeah,
to kind of go along the theme with the Network Automation Forum is automation is a journey. And that's something we want to help our customers with. You can make it as easy or complex. We prefer the easy side, and we have the tools and solutions to help you get there.
And where can folks find you?
OpenText.com.
So through the magic of editing, John Jackson has now become Ryan Ring from CloudMyLab. You were on stage with OpenText at AutoCon 2. Before we talk about what happened on stage, can you just give a little background on CloudMyLab for folks who aren't familiar?
Sure. Yeah. So CloudMyLab, we've been around for 8 years, and we specialize in lab as a service. So whether you're doing proof of concepts, or you just want a lab as a service platform to do all of your own labs, or you're looking to build out a true digital twin of your environment, we're the ones that are going to roll up our sleeves and help build that for you. So,
and presumably it's all happening in the cloud.
Yeah. So everything that we do is in our own data centers, on our own infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're here at AutoCon with OpenText talking about an integration. Can you tell us some details what you guys are doing together?
Sure. So we take our fully managed, hosted, supported lab solutions, and OpenText reached out to us originally, like John was talking about, for building out device drivers. So they came to us as a customer and quickly turned into a success story where we've partnered up, because they've been able to add to that extensive list of devices that they wanted to showcase to those customers. And then from there, the sales team wanted a way to demonstrate them. So they used our labs as well to discover that and showcase their network operation management tools.
OpenText's sales team said, can we use your lab as kind of a demo environment for potential customers?
Correct. So they saw the cool stuff that R&D was doing, and they're like, hey, we want to get in on that. We're like, okay, cool. So we built them another lab for the sales team. Having network management software, they discovered that lab, showcased it to the customers, and then the customers were like, we want that lab, right? So we're like, okay, that's cool. Actually, we hadn't thought about that yet, but that makes a lot of sense. And so particularly in their network operation management platform is the network automation suite, right? And anybody that's doing network automation, we believe, should be doing it in a lab setting. You know, a lot of these people that are working in network automation now, they started as network engineers, right?
Yeah.
They're not software developers.
Yeah.
And they're working backwards. So we want to give them a safe place to fail. And that's really what CloudMyLab is bringing to the table, and particularly with OpenText now. So we've, in the last 3 months, created an integrated lab environment with OpenText software. And now people who are using that can have a lab inside of it to do their testing.
So you said something really important there, which was a safe place to fail. One of the other presentations at AutoCon today said one of the things holding automation back is confidence.
Right.
I'm worried this isn't going to work. So the idea of a lab as a safe place to fail should resonate with folks wanting to get into automation.
Right, absolutely. And you know, I think also people look at labs and they're not quite sure where to start. You know, everybody's idea of a lab is different. Like we see this with the concept of a digital twin, which is really what people who are practicing network automation, they want. And they all come with this idea, and it's usually, it varies quite a bit of what their idea of a digital twin is. The way that we see it would be, you know, there's kind of like theoretical and actual yield. How close can we actually get to your production environment?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for some people, they want a one-to-one instance. Like we're going to emulate absolutely everything or build it out. So the way that we would approach that is we'll look and see what devices can we emulate, and then what devices can't we emulate. And then so we'll do as much of it as we can. We'll put it up in the cloud, and we'll emulate all of that, and then we'll physically pull in the network infrastructure in our data centers and tie those two together. And then it comes down to configuration to match what's going on in the production environment. There's really no easy button for a digital twin.
Yeah.
So we're willing to kind of roll up our sleeves and do it. That's what we do. And we can be as involved or not as the customer wants. Sometimes they have teams that they want to, you know, get their exercise and build their expertise just building out those labs and doing it. Other people just want a place to start practicing automation. So they're like, hey, can you help us with that?
So if they're customers of the OpenText Network Automation Suite, they want to sort of get their feet wet, or even maybe do not a full digital twin or just some part of their environment, there's already that partnership with CloudMyLab to make that as easy as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we have the conversation with the customer is we can put this together for you, but what's your goals, right? Tell us your problems. And everyone's a little bit different. And we like a good challenge. And so I think that's what's neat about working with OpenText on this is we've pulled the testing inside their platform, and we can help their customers have that confidence and start actually using the network automation tools. So like Matt was talking about, they just need a place to get started, right? And you're talking about the hesitancy.
Yeah,
you know,
that confidence.
right? You want to have some confidence to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to push something into production and, you know, risk their job or something over it. But this is cool stuff that's going on. So how do they get into it, and how do they get practice and hours doing it? So giving them that safe place to fail is what we kind of bring to the table with OpenText.
So if people are curious about CloudMyLab, where would they go?
They can go to cloudmylab.com. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Sure.